everyone, I'm Linda Rossetti and I'm thrilled that you're here. Welcome to Your Move, making the most of your next transition. Whether you find yourself in transition or considering one, this course is going to support you as you bring structure and excitement to the decisions that lie ahead of you. This week is our inaugural week, and so I'm thrilled to talk to you a little bit about the course and why I'm doing it, and also to give you instructions for what needs to happen this week. This video is going to be only 10 minutes long, I promise. My goal is to make these short and really powerful. I have to tell you why I care so much about transition. I think it comes down to the fact that about 8 years ago, I encountered a very unexpected event, and it sent me in a direction that I was not prepared for. And I describe that moment, by the way, as the ground falling out from underneath me. I mean, it was terrifying and unfamiliar. And honestly, everyone around me couldn't really help. No one really could help me understand what it was that was happening, or even ask me questions that might help me understand it for myself. And so that began a journey that ultimately brought me to an extraordinary amount of research that helped me understand what was happening for me in a very new way. And what I've concluded is that we as a society really misunderstand transition. And as a result, we're all at risk of, not realizing the potential that's resident within each of us. So this course and my work is really all about helping people understand what transition is and use that knowledge to explore more of the kinds of things that are on your mind. And those might be personal things, they might be work things, they might be all sorts of things. It really doesn't matter what. This course will help us get closer to all of that. So I am thrilled that you're here, and I hope that you find it really exciting. Let me be clear about what we're going to work on, right? For those who kind of know what's up for them, you will get new vitality, purpose, and energy out of this work, right? It will help you go deeper and ask broader questions of the kinds of things you're thinking about, right? For those who don't know what's ahead, the work is going to help bring structure to some things that may be going on for you and help you get really focused and get to a place that will be optimistic and motivational to help you continue. So it's intended for people who know and can say, oh, Linda, I want to do X, Y, and Z. And it's also intended for people to say, there's something going on and I really can't even tell you what it is that I need to work on. So it's for everyone, and I hope that you find it interesting. I want to give you just a minute or two about some information that I think is important to start. Right, already in this video, I have said the word transition about 50 times, right? We use that word often in our society, and I do want to give you a heads up on a couple of things before you do this week's exercises, right? The first thing is this word transition, right? I never knew it, right? That time where I found myself in a very uncomfortable place, I never knew what the word transition really meant. I mean, I used it like everyone uses it, right? We use it to describe Caitlyn Jenner's kind of transformation, and we use it to describe little things like, oh, I got to pick up my kids because they're transitioning from school to their after-school activities is going miserably, right? Very different uses for the same word. What I've learned through my work, though, is that transitions occur when there is a shift in what holds value and meaning to us. And it can happen when we're 22, it can happen when we're 72, or it can never happen, right? It really is about recognizing and bringing our awareness to those things that hold value and meaning to us, and welcoming with an open heart the fact that maybe those things are shifting. And that is very different from the word change or the process that we use to support change, because changes are very often goal-oriented, right? If we've recently lost a job and we need to replace that income, toot sweet right away. We go through, we make a job change, right? We go through a search process and we find a new job, right? That's a change. We can change apartments, we can change spouses, we can change all sorts of things, right? But the difference in the two is that changes are very goal-oriented, meaning we can often articulate the outcome that we need. Transitions are quite a bit different, right? Transitions occur when there's a shift in what holds value and meaning to us. And, very often it has to do with things that are harder to articulate than the goal-oriented things that occur in change. Now, very often when we're going through transition, we can execute lots of changes, right? We may be recognizing and updating these shifts that are occurring, and in the meantime we might get a new job, right? So they're not necessarily mutually exclusive, but they are important to recognize that there are some differences. And the other thing that I think is important right now to recognize is that we're going to begin this work not by me giving you the 2-hour lecture and then saying go do it. I'm going to share with you little bits of information and then help you do some exercises that will allow you to kind of experientially learn about transition. And so the first thing I want to alert you to is that this week we're going to do 2 exercises that are very introspective, right? We're going to do something that's countercultural, right? We're not going to do. We're going to try to do some things that are reflective and use those moments to see if we can get very clear on the questions that are on the table for each of us. And by the way, they're all going to be different, right? Everyone is different. So the 2 exercises that we're going to do are very reflective and speak to one other layer about transition that I want to share with you. And that layer has to do with the componentry of transition, right? Transition isn't just like this one blob, it happens, we're done, right? Transitions actually have kind of an anatomy of their own, right? And very often transitions start, right? You know, this shift occurs when there is a catalyst or a trigger that happens in our life, right? My trigger happened to be an event that happened while I was on a business trip. I was away. I had very young children at the time, and there was this event that happened for my daughter. She was fine, but the event kind of was jarring to me. And so this notion of a catalyst or a trigger is that thing. It can be an event, it can be a feeling, it can be a recognition, right? One of the most common things I hear from my research is that boredom is probably one of the most consistent triggers that I hear all the time, right? People say, oh, I'm bored. The reality is events like what happened with my daughter, feelings like boredom or 100 others, and also a recognition that, some people say, something just wasn't right. So any of these things, an event, a feeling, or a sense, can serve as our trigger. And triggers, or these catalysts, are the things that kind of deposit us at this doorstep that says, okay, what are we going to do with this moment? And so this week, we're going to focus a little bit on trying to recognize when in our life triggers have been present. We're not going to focus on what we do with them. We're just going to bring our awareness to this concept of, triggers are important. Can I at least recognize when they're here? And again, a trigger can be an event like, I graduated from college, or my husband and I got divorced, or I fell in love, right? These are triggers. All we're going to do this week is recognize when they're present. And so I won't say any more, I think, about the notion of transitions anatomy, other than to say triggers are the entry into this anatomy, and they do nothing more. Transitions are not guaranteed once we encounter a trigger. That's a complete fallacy that society loves us to believe. The reality is not true. Triggers do nothing more than deposit us at an opportunity to make a decision. We may decide to transition, but we may decide to do many other things. And we're going to talk about that in future weeks. But this week, I want to bring our awareness to this notion that there are catalysts that happen for us in our life all the time. And I want to recognize those and see what we might do with them. So let me be clear on the couple of activities we're going to do this week. There are 2. The first is we're going to think about our triggers, right? So the first activity is called Exploring Our Triggers. Very clear, you're going to architect a little inventory of the triggers you've experienced, and then do some observation of what those things say. And the second activity we're going to do is we're going to do an activity called Dancing with Intentions. And that is really all about recognizing why it makes sense in this moment to explore this work. And so together, those 2 things, a bit countercultural, we're not going to make a to-do list, we're not going to do. We're going to use those 2 exercises to reflect. And I want you to kind of be calm about this. None of these activities am I looking for an accurate answer. What I hope you can do is become familiar with this process of being aware and using that to broaden our understanding of the things that might be going on for us. So I look forward to working with you. I'm just at the end of my 10 minutes. Welcome to week 1. I'm thrilled that you're here. Please don't hesitate to outreach to me with any questions or problems. And don't hesitate to join one of the 2 discussion sessions this week, Thursday at noon, Sunday at 7 o'clock. Take care. Have a great week.